All right, how you doing, everybody? John Arezzi back for another edition of Pro Wrestling Spotlight Live, right here, streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. Today is January the 30th, 2021, and today could be the most widely watched edition of this program since we started it less than a year ago, when I had a little wild hair at my ass, and when we were under the first stages of the pandemic, and my nephew and I decided to go on each and every week and revive Pro Wrestling Spotlight live. So that's what we're doing today. Today's show is going to be an interesting one for me. I am going to bring on, for the first time ever on this program, and also the first time ever that I've had the opportunity one-on-one to talk to Vince Russo. Vince Russo, if you're not familiar with him, it's impossible. But I am the person who actually brought him into the wrestling business in 1991. It's 30 years ago. Later this year that Vince Russo and I got to know each other. He was an advertiser on my Pro Wrestling Spotlight show. He had a video store called Will to Throw Videos in Coram. And he became an advertiser of mine. And then later we formed a short-lived partnership and did a radio show. We took the radio show to New York City, WEVD. Shortly thereafter that, we parted ways and didn't speak to each other for many, many years. And the instigator of that reunion was my nephew Dominic. And also, it's really partially the reason I'm back in the wrestling business is because what transpired after that with the one-on-one I had with Vince Russo. So we'll get into all of that, and we have Vince. We're going to ask him some questions. We're going to talk about it. Another reason why I wanted to bring him on this week, he celebrated his 60th birthday on January the 24th. My 64th birthday was January the 25th. So we got two old timers here getting ready to talk wrestling with you. And I do want to mention also that Vince is a polarizing figure. He's always has been. He was one of the most successful writers in the WWF during the Attitude Era. He spent time with WCW and Impact and has a long and storied career, but he's polarizing, as everybody knows. So we're going to try to get some questions answered from the comments section. But if you're going to be abusive, if you're going to do anything that's considered offensive, we're not going to put your comments up or take your questions down. And that's just kind of the fair warning. Let's play fair. Let's play nice. And we'll get into a number of topics with Vince Russo in just a few minutes. And we'll bring on my nephew Dominic as well to say hello to his Uncle Vince. But we also have the news. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's Royal Rumble weekend. And Alex Robertson is here from slamwrestling.net, as she is each and every week. And let's bring Alex on. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, John?
I'm doing okay. I was gone last week, and everybody knows I was down in Florida shooting some television for a series that everybody knows that'll be doing season 3 this year. Can't really talk about it at this point, but I want to thank you for filling in for me and bringing Don Liable on last week. And you did a great job, first and foremost. I did catch the last 10 minutes live in the waiting room, but I watched the whole thing, and I want to thank you for your help last week filling in for me. And the next time I venture out anywhere, I'll make sure that you're the first person I call.
Of course. We had a lot of fun last week. Anytime, John.
Well, thank you so much. But we do have a lot of stuff going on this week. So let's hear about the news of the week in this crazy world we call pro wrestling.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that everybody heard this week was the WWE and the Peacock deal. And I know that when I first saw it, I thought, this is huge, right? It's a deal that's worth $1 billion. Yeah. And for people who don't really know what Peacock is, it's not really big in Canada. So that's why I really had to look into it myself. It's part of NBC Universal. So if anybody knows what that is, it's basically just a streaming service. And the switch that's going to be happening from the WWE network to Peacock is going to start on March 18th. And from what I can tell, it's actually a pretty good deal if you're a subscriber in the States. It's going to be cheaper for you. So there really shouldn't be any issue for those who are going to switch over. For everybody else who's in another country, I think it just depends. I mean, I know in Canada, I think it's just going to stay the way it is because we don't get Peacock up here. So the rate is going to remain the same and the platform is going to remain the same.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, so if you're in Canada, for example, or another country, you still will have to subscribe to the network via Peacock or via the network as you traditionally do now?
I'm thinking it's via the network. It's not, there hasn't been really any detail released on what is going to happen with it in other countries, which is why I'm thinking it's just going to stay the way that it is, unless they're going to completely move everything to Peacock and allow people from other countries to be able to access it. But again, I think the deal is still so new. They're still trying to find the kinks and trying to work things out.
Yeah, I could explain a little bit about Peacock. I mean, for everybody here in the States, I love it. I love Peacock. It's a streaming service from NBC Universal, but you could stream a lot of the old TV shows, all of The Office. I mean, you just, it's a streaming service. It's a great service, and I'm a subscriber to it. And what I think this deal does for them and why they made this deal, and it's $1 billion, was because they're going to get millions of new eyeballs into Peacock.
Yeah.
And their subscription rates vary. I mean, it's, you know, it's $4.99 to $9.99. You know, with commercials not without any commercials, it's $9. But I think, yeah, Bill Holtz, I mean, it is a good deal for. I think it's a really good deal for Peacock, even though they're paying $1 billion, because they're automatically going to get millions of new people to experience their service, and hopefully to upgrade them then to the $9.99 cost. For the WWE, I believe it's a 5-year license deal, so it's not exactly like Peacock is going to own that stuff. I think WWE retains ownership, if I'm not mistaken, but then it's a 5-year license deal exclusively to Peacock.
Yeah, exactly. And like it is cheaper too. So, you know, you're getting the WWE network and you're getting all of these other shows. So if you get it, it is a really good deal. So it's really big.
For anybody who is a subscriber to Peacock already. I mean, it's not like you're getting the WWF for free at that point. $9.99 with no ads. There you go, Dan.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So, so I think I'm excited about it, actually, and it's going to be interesting. Hopefully, there'll be more archival content put up there, but who knows what they're going to do. They may, who knows? We'll have to wait and see March 18th.
Yeah, exactly. I think as we get closer to the date, probably more is going to be released, more details. And hopefully, like I said, for people who are in other countries, that we're going to know, you know, what's going to happen to the actual WWE on demand that we currently subscribe to. Is it going to switch over? Are we going to have to go to another streaming service in, you know, the country that we're in? So as things go forward and as things, you know, get closer to the date, I'll try and have more information on it. But for now, that's really all that we have.
Thank you. Thank you. And
of course, it's Royal Rumble weekend, which is really exciting for me. I mean, like I love this pay-per-view, and I said it last week. It's one of my favorite ones. It's the road to WrestleMania, so why not, right? And the best part is that there's always surprises with this pay-per-view, which is not any different from the one we're about to see tomorrow. From what I can see, if we start with the men's Royal Rumble, we're just starting with that match in general. 31 out of the 30 entrants have already been named for both Raw and SmackDown, which means there are 9 or 8 surprises that could come in. So that could be anybody from NXT. That could be anybody from NXT UK. It could be somebody from the past. We don't know. So that's kind of exciting. I mean, if I look at the current roster that they have here of people who have already claimed that they're going to be in the match, it's already a good lineup. And we heard this week that Edge has also said that he's going to be in this year's Royal Rumble. And he was the biggest surprise that came out of last year. Right. So very cool to see him. But I think it's going to be, there's going to be some stiff competition there. I think it's really anybody's game. I know a lot of people were thinking that maybe Daniel Bryan had it. But I mean, with everybody that I see on this list, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Otis, Big E, Shinsuke Nakamura, of course, Edge. I mean, it's really anybody's game. So we'll really have to watch and see what happens there. And then if we look at the women's Royal Rumble, 13 out of the 30 possible women have been named. So there's probably going to be
only 13.
Only 13. A lot of Raw have already named some of their women that are going to be in the match. Charlotte Flair, Nia Jax is some of them. Alexa Bliss, which could also be very interesting considering the storyline she is in with the Fiend kind of being inside her, if you will. And then we also have Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, Bianca Belair from SmackDown, which would be very interesting to maybe see her get a bit of a push. But again, there's only 13 out of 30. That's less than half of the women that are going to be in the match have already said that they're going to be there. So there still leaves a lot of room for people to come back. And you know what? Could we see somebody like Ronda Rousey come back? Who knows? Which would be very cool. We were talking about that before.
Yeah, I think if Ronda makes an appearance, absolutely. And Dan Brown, could Mr. Wrestling John Anthony be one of the surprise entrants? I don't think so, man.
No, I think it's got to be somebody that's going to have a little more shock value.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything's possible.
Well, don't you think it would be shocking if I walked out as John Anthony?
I mean, I would be the first one standing up cheering for you, John. You would be my pick if you went in there, for sure.
That's Twilight Zone territory, my friend. So it ain't happening. Anyway, yeah, that's cool. But then you got some championship matches. You got a loaded card. It's in the Thunderdome, obviously, because of COVID. And it's going to be interesting to see you know, how they pipe in, you know, the cheer. I mean, they're doing like this crazy stuff now. I mean, with chants and, you know, the yes thing yesterday. And I'm like, it's total manipulation now. I mean, it's just like, and it seems like the Thunderdome is getting larger and larger. Doesn't it seem that way?
Yeah,
it does. Screen's getting smaller.
Yeah, but I think the fact that they add in the chants, I think it makes it seem like there's more people in there or that they've added more screens. But for sure, it sounds like it's a little bit manipulated. But it's
what I grew up with.
No, me neither, my friend. Me neither. But as you said, yeah, there are some other matches that are on the card. We do have Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg, which at one point we weren't even sure was going to happen because of Drew McIntyre's COVID-19 diagnosis, which he seems to have recovered from, which is great. Yeah. But that should be an interesting match. Although I don't think that Goldberg is going to win the title. I think Drew McIntyre is going to retain, but it's two big stars going up against each other, so it should be interesting.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. What else is shaking?
Yeah, what else? We saw some interesting stuff on Impact this week. I know I was watching it, and right at the end of the show, I saw Trey Miguel come out. Now, Trey Miguel was part of the Rascals, and if anybody watches Impact, you'll know that they actually left Impact in November to go sign with NXT, all three of them. So it was kind of surprising that we're seeing Trey Miguel come back in this different look. It's like he's rebranded himself. So what I found out was the NXT deal for him kind of fell through. There was some kind of kerfuffle that happened with him and Triple H and Trey Miguel having to attend to a family emergency. And he was told he wasn't allowed to. And, you know, Triple H is saying, no, that never happened. He wasn't really making the cut. He wasn't really all in, as he said. So he made his way back to Impact to kind of start over as a singles competitor. Which again, I think somebody like Trey Miguel, since I've been watching him, he looks like he has a lot of star power on his own. Out of the three of the Rascals, I always thought that he would be able to start his own singles career. So we'll see where it goes from here. I'm hoping that they don't pair him up with anybody else and they kind of give him a chance to go up against some of the big hitters on Impact's roster, and we'll see what happens there. But that was kind of the biggest news that came out of Impact, but it's not necessarily something we haven't seen before. So yeah.
Well, it's been a busy week.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, we also had the Superstar Spectacle this week, which I tried my best to watch. It was a little bit difficult to get through. It was a great, what they're trying to do with shows like this is amazing, and the fact that they couldn't even go to India to do that show was the way that they put it together, and the talent that they had in there was great. It fell a little flat for me. But again, I mean, it's the world we live in. It's it's the best that they can really do. But other than that, yeah. But I did have a bigger week this week because I had a really big article that came out today.
Yes, you did. SlamWrestling.net, everybody, who brings us Alex each and every week. You had a great new article about some new old school.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would put it. I talked first to David Marquez, who is the owner and the founder of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, who has jump-started so many careers of people that we see all around the world today. So it was really interesting to get to sit down with him and talk about this new venture that he has with Championship Wrestling from Memphis, which is just another extension of what he's doing. So we talked a little bit about that, and Memphis having a deep wrestling history, but they hadn't had a program there for about 15 years, and trying to get these networks to believe in it again. So that is the story that I was trying to tell. And I also talked to Dustin Starr, who co-hosts CW30 Championship Wrestling from Memphis, with his wife Maria. And, Dustin was also in the WWE's developmental system. He was a ring announcer. He was a referee. So he has a lot of experience in the business. And now he's going to be hosting the show, and he's very enthusiastic about it. Him and his wife are very, very excited about the show. And they're doing their tapings on February 14th in Memphis. All the COVID-19 protocols are being followed. They're not selling out the venue. They're trying to space everybody out too, which was nice to hear. But yeah, it's really big news, I guess, for independent wrestling. So, I mean, if anybody is in the Memphis area and wants to go to one of these shows, I highly recommend it, because I don't know who's going to be on the card yet, but just from everything that I've heard from the ones that are putting it together, it sounds like it's going to be a really cool show. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go read the article that's live today on Slam Wrestling.
Yeah, please. I encourage everybody to do that, to read about Championship Wrestling from Memphis. And Alex, you did a great job on the article. SlamWrestling.net is where you could find Alex, and one of the top journalists for Greg Oliver and his team at SlamWrestling.net, among so many other things that you do. Yeah. So I want to thank you again, Alex, for joining us as you do each and every week. And I guess we'll do a post-Royal Rumble wrap-up next week.
You got it.
And there's the URL, SlamWrestling.net. Check it out. All right, Alex, thank you.
Good. Have a great week, John.
All righty. You too. Alex Robertson from SlamWrestling.net, brought to you here by Greg Oliver and his team each and every week. So we are about to bring somebody on who I've known since 1991, and it's Vince Russo from Colorado. Vince, I want to bring you on right now. There he is.
What's going on, John? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? What's going on? You're in the headquarters there in Colorado.
Yes, I'm in Colorado. Yes, Rocky Mountain High.
Yes. Before we do anything, I'm going to bring on this dude right here who you know.
There he is.
Dominic, you're muted there, so take yourself off of mute.
Here we go.
I wanted to do this for a few reasons, Vince.
Did you want to do this to show me that you look just like the painting? Is that what this was all about? Now that I have you here, is that what you wanted to do?
Well, that's one of the reasons, Vince.
Hold on.
We're going to get into the painting also. It's still hung up in the clubhouse there in New York. There it is.
Yes. Amazing.
I was pleased with the way I looked. Of course, with my Mets logo. I can't speak for Dominic.
Dom, it was the picture he sent, Dom. That was the picture he sent,
I
man.
made myself look good in that picture. I had to look good in it.
I love it, Vince. I think it came out great.
And I tell you
one gift I ever got.
I tell you one thing. If I can ever show the video, because I filmed when we opened it, I wouldn't open it before Christmas So Dominic and I, it was Christmas Eve night.
Yes.
And we had gone out, and we were back in the house that they rent on West Babylon, and there was the package. It was unopened, and I wanted to open it up live in front of my sister because she had no idea what it was. And so I had the video camera on, I had the iPhone on, filming the whole thing. And someday, with your mom's permission, it has to be with her permission, I will show that. And it's probably the most hilarious 5 minutes in recorded history.
It's hysterical.
Oh, I saw the stills and I popped huge from the stills. I got to see I didn't even know a video existed. Oh my God. I got to see the video.
The video is incredible.
Oh, I got to see it.
We cry when we watch it. It's so funny.
I got to watch. I didn't even know one existed.
Yeah. The painting, man. But I'm gonna preface all of this by bringing Dominic in, and Vince. Everybody knows. I mean, most people or some people know that you getting in the wrestling business was through the Pro Wrestling Spotlight radio show in 1991. We met about 30 years ago. And of course, we had the falling out, which is also in recorded history, and everything that transpired over the last few decades. But my nephew had always been enamored with you. I mean, because my nephew was a wrestling fan, and he knew about our history. And so he became a listener to your podcast, or, several of your podcasts, and the one you did with Matt Kuhn, Truth with Consequences. And there were some things said, and then I reached out to Matt, and he put us together in that one-on-one on YouTube, and we were able to talk out the differences that we had from 30 years ago. But it was Dominic's instigation of that, but him telling me it was around when, Dominic? You know the date probably specifically when that happened.
It was 2019, right?
It was 2018. See, there you go. 2018. It was
2019.
It was around Thanksgiving, I think, right?
Yeah.
So after all of that happened, and then we got together. I was out in Colorado for the Christmas of that year with Dominic, and we got together for breakfast.
Yeah.
And we talked and all of that. But I had no desire or any inclination of ever getting back in the wrestling business. Back in, I think it was 2017 or 18, I just was selling my house. I was finding all these archives that I had. And I reached out to a guy named Ben Brown in the WWE Archives division because I wanted to sell my archives. And that was just kind of it. I had no intention of getting back into broadcasting or anything to do with wrestling, really. And Dominic, you went on a couple of those trips with me there. Was that 2017 or 8? I was 18 when I sold the house, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it was 18.
So, yeah. So anyway, all that happens. And then, then Dominic hears your podcast, then he tells me, and then I reach out to Matt, and then we have our thing, and then we get together. But at the same time, I decided to start a Twitter account, and then people remembered who I was. And I didn't think after 23 years, anyone who would remember me, or maybe some fans would. And then it kind of grew, and then I started an Instagram, then I started a Facebook page. So, Vince, I am now blaming you for getting me back in the wrestling business, because if it wasn't for that one-on-one I did with you, and if it wasn't for Dominic alerting me to it, because I didn't listen to podcasts, I didn't do anything in wrestling. It wasn't, I'd watch occasionally. That was it. I was out of it. And then now I'm back in. But what has happened because of that, things happen for a reason. Everything, it's a circle of life is what I say. I got a book deal. I have a book coming out April the 6th. I've done work with Dark Side of the Ring. I have other discussions of things that are happening. I got merchandise. I have this show, which is kind of a much smaller version of what Pro Wrestling Spotlight was years ago. I don't have the Rolodex I did, so I don't really have the great guests, but I'm back in it. And I never thought I would be. So I have to, I'm not going to blame you for it, because I'm actually enjoying myself right now as a historian more than anything else.
Well, I'm gonna blame you for me being in the wrestling business. So yeah. consider us even, because I'm gonna blame you for that, John Arezzi.
there are some people who are like, that blame me in very serious ways about bringing you in the business, and there are other people.
I blame you just as much.
Yeah.
I would never do it again. I would never. John, I think, bro, I'll be honest with you. Like, you were definitely my gateway into the wrestling business. There's not even a question about that. Yes, you introduced me to it, the whole 9 yards. But man, John, I got to tell you, I did not have a dream and a goal of being in the wrestling business. That was never on my radar. You guys know, like you guys, I'm a huge baseball fan. That would have been a dream job. Getting a job, because I know, John, you worked in baseball. That would have been a dream job for me.
Yeah, I love baseball.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, when I got the job in wrestling and I started with the WWE, it wasn't a dream job for me. I needed a job. My video stores were going out of business. I knew that, John, like when we met, I knew I was in trouble because of Blockbuster. And I was a fan of the wrestling business, and I thought it might be cool to get into the business. And if I, got together with you, that would be a good introduction for me in the business. And like I said, I would never do wrestling again. But John, I don't even think you know this. A dream job really would have been for me to be in radio.
Wow.
I fell in love with radio, bro. That experience I had with you at WGBB and then WEVD, I fell in love with radio. To this day, I dabble a little bit here and there in Colorado, and if a gig came up tomorrow, I would take it. But through our relationship, I really fell in love with radio. Man, wrestling was always a job. There was never a love. There was never a passion. It was always a job. But to this day, I sit here. You said I just turned 60. I absolutely love radio, and that was because of your introduction to both of those worlds.
Yeah, radio has been something that's been in and out of my life for many, many years as a broadcaster, and I did sports reporting myself. And the thing about the wrestling business, Vince, is you say, it was a job. It was something that you did, but for me, it was something that I always had a passion for, and then I just couldn't take the business. The years of 1991 where it really started. I mean, I started the show for fun in 1989, and 1990 was kind of a sweet spot on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, then and now podcast. We're in the middle, towards the end of 1990, where there were some amazing guests coming on every week, and then 1991 things changed. And that's when the Saharian trial and the scandals and all of that stuff. Then I met you, and then you came on as an advertiser. Then we went to EVD, and then we had that big split. We had we didn't agree on the directions we should go. You were more in the entertainment. I wanted to cover it as a journalist, and the business tore me up, and it really did a number on me. It did a number on me when I finally got out in '96. I left. I changed my name. I disappeared, and that was the end of it. But I could hear what you're saying. I mean, but you've had an incredible run in a lot of different things. Turning 60 is a big thing for you. I mean, you talked about it really over the last couple of years. It's like, I'm going to be 60. I'm getting out. What is going on with you today? I know you have a network, the brand of a ton of different programming that you're responsible for putting up on the airwaves. But turning 60, is it still in the back of your mind? Like you want to get that, you want to get out still, or you now changed your mind a little bit about staying in?
Haven't. Yeah, John, listen, man, no birthday. I don't know about you, but I can tell you, for me, no birthday affected me the way my 60th birthday did. Because, John, when you turn 60, now you're seeing a real number ahead of you. 75, maybe, right. You have?
It's the sunset.
Exactly. I mean, that's what you're really looking at. And, John, like, I have to be honest, man. I would sit here every week, watch Raw, watch SmackDown, watch AEW. And John, I just felt like, man, this is such a massive waste of my time. There's nothing I enjoy about the product. I don't enjoy watching it. I don't enjoy talking about it. This is not 1991 Pro Wrestling Spotlight. This is a completely different animal, and I am not a fan of this animal. And that's why I just made the decision, man. When I turn 60, I don't want to waste any more of my time. And I just really felt like watching professional wrestling just really became a massive waste of my time. I mean that wholeheartedly.
Are you covering it at all now?
John, the only show I'm watching now is Raw because I have some business that's tied into Raw. Listen, I can't really get into it, but I have a consulting gig that revolves around Raw. So there are some revenue streams that are very viable to me by watching Raw. But again, that is the only reason I'm watching it. 100% business, but I cut out everything else.
You were such a main part of the writing of not just WWF back then in the Attitude Era, and then going over to Impact, and you've been out of the writing game. When was the last time you had a writing gig in wrestling?
I left TNA in 2012, man. So it's almost a decade.
That was the end of it.
That was it.
Yeah. It was kind of funny that you and I both lived in Nashville, and we only ran into each other, I think, once at the Palm.
Well, I never lived in Nashville, but I might as well have. I mean, I was there.
You lived in Georgia, right? Did you live in Georgia?
Yeah, I lived in Georgia, so there was a lot of back. I mean, I was in Nashville every single week.
You're in Cumming Station a lot, I guess.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was there too. I mean, for business appointments, but the wrestling stuff, I mean, obviously, if you had the opportunity today, let's say if AEW reached out to you or McMahon, reached out and said, we'd like to talk to you. Do you think you could add anything to what's going on in the business today? Do you think it's over and it's not ever coming back to anything that we recognize? But do you think that you can have an impact today as a writer in any of the two big federations that are out there right now?
John, absolutely not. Because part of the reason why I was so successful at WWE, and it was not as easy for me at WCW and TNA, was because at WWE, once I proved my success to Vince, John, I really had full reign. I mean, Ed Ferrara and myself, we would write the entire show, the entire script, hand it to Vince, and Vince would just tweak it here and there. I really had the full reign creatively to do what I wanted to do. When I got to WCW and when I got to TNA, it turned into having to convince everybody. And John, I got tired of having to convince everybody. I knew what I was doing. I know how to draw casual fans. I know how to build an audience. I just got tired of having to convince everybody. And it would be 100 times worse today. I wouldn't stand a chance, especially the structure at the WWE with the levels they have in 25. I wouldn't stand a chance. I'm confident in my vision and my ability. I proved it could work. But when it came down to me, now having to sell it and over and over again, I really got tired of it.
So you got burnt out after so many years too. I mean, it does a number on you. I mean, and it's not it's a crazy business. I mean, there's no business like it, as we both know. And I never was in it as deep as you got into it. You were kind of like after our dissolution of the short-lived partnership. I mean, you progressed very rapidly through the system, and you went from well, you did your own radio show. I mean, first and foremost, you were GBB with Vicious Vincent's World of Wrestling, right?
Which was John, I'll be honest with you, that was the best fun I had in the wrestling business.
Well, because you controlled it. I mean, it was
Absolutely.
and you know, you had the characters like the Matt Rat, and you had Skull Von Crush, and you had the others. Do you have any of those shows still?
Well, Vito is still a part of my network. But every one of our shows is really entertainment based. It's,
no,
I mean,
you have copies of it. Do you have copies of the old show?
John, you know what happened, man? I had a couple of cassette tapes and I was trying to transfer them over and it got all messed up. So I just shredded them and threw them away. So no, I don't.
I think I got two. I got two copies. I got two shows that I taped back in the day because we were going back and forth at each other. I mean, pretty viciously.
Yeah.
Do you remember the bus trips that we both did at the same time? And the fans were like, your bus was yelling Resi sucks, and my bus was yelling Russo sucks. And it was just, it was like we were almost at war. And you had the cape and the hat. And I mean, we had some vicious words against each other back then, man. And you know, for me, I mean, and believe me, I have in my heart, I mean, I don't have animosity or hate anybody. I mean, a lot of people think I'm an idiot or whatever it is sometimes, but I just can't do it. That's not my DNA. But we had went back and we went at it for a long. It was a long feud. It was a long feud. But I mean, you know, but here we are talking to each other like gentlemen, like we did a couple of years ago, thanks to Dominic turning me on to it. But the GBB show was a funny show. I mean, it was an entertaining show. It was what you wanted to do. It was entertainment. Right. It was character based, and that's where you kind of found your sweet spot in a lot of ways. And then you got
and it's still what I want to do. Like, you know, literally 30 years later, it's still what I want to do. I mean, like, John, one of the things is like with wrestling, and especially I don't want to say marks, but the serious wrestling fans. Man, so many people just take the business so seriously. And I'm like, I always looked at wrestling as a form of entertainment, like everything else, like going to a concert or going to a ball game or watching TV. It's always been entertainment to me. And man, people just take it so seriously. And I've never understood that. John, so many times I'm trying to get these guys to come on my show. You know, the Meltzers and the Kellers and all these people. They refuse to. The reason I want them to come on my show, I'm not going to argue. I'm too old for that. Yeah. I'm like you, John. I don't have any animosity towards anybody.
I'm the only guy. I'm the only guy that you had really deep heat with that now is like. Really?
But the reason why
you haven't had lunch with Bruce Mitchell yet.
I've contacted Bruce since he left Wade. I've contacted him, but my whole thing is I just want to have a conversation with them because to this day I don't understand. Why do you guys take this so seriously to the point of they absolutely hate my guts? They don't even know me. The fact that you hate me because of the way I wrote a wrestling show, that just it just blows my mind. I never understood it, man.
I think I think thank you, Dan. I think when it comes back to the sheet writers or the journalist, and I have good relationships with everybody. Mitchell had a problem with me in the 90s. He used to really go after me when I became a promoter, and said some really nasty things about me. And then I tried to analyze it, and basically because I was doing a radio show. But I was promoting, I was berating and really calling out guys on steroids. And then I used some of these same individuals when I booked some of my tours. But he went really hard after me. And when I saw him a couple of years ago at the Wrestling Fans Hall of Fame in Iowa, which I was a part of, and I was like, hey, listen, I mean, I made some mistakes back then. you wrote some nasty things about me, but were they all justified? I mean, it was harsh, but I did make some mistakes. And I think in your case, just going back when we did the newsletter together, your style of writing in the beginning stages of Pro Wrestling Spotlight weekly newsletter was a different style of what they were accustomed to. And I was more of this hard-hitting journalist, and you were the entertainment. So I didn't think you made a good inclusion into that little circle. And it was, I think there was heat off the very start in 1992 with you and Meltzer, Keller, and the rest of them, because they didn't accept you in the beginning, and then it just kind of, and you were like, well, screw you guys too. I mean, because you're not one to like try to be overly nice. You're a New Yorker, right? You speak from, you just let it go, and that's kind of what started, your heat with these people in the early 90s. But I mean, to everyone's credit, I mean, some people hate you to this day. But it is, if you're extending an olive branch, I mean, you can only do what you can do, and then people are going to respond, whether they're going to reach out to you or they're going to ignore you.
Bro, that's the thing that blows my mind. I've recently, a month ago, I extended olive branches to Meltzer, Keller, Mike Johnson, and Brian Alvarez. John, they don't even respond back. I mean, at least say, you know what, Vince, we appreciate it. We're not interested in at least say that. That's the part that's frustrating to me, because to this day, they'll still viciously attack me on their shows personally. And it's like, okay, guys, if you refuse to ever have a adult conversation to me, I don't know what you want me to do. I mean, I'm offering to talk. I've offered to talk to Cornette. I don't know what you guys want me to do. I mean, we're going back, 30, 20 years, and I'm 60. A lot of these guys are my age. I'm like, guys, can we have a conversation? It just, that's why, John, when the situation arose with you, and, Matt, I said, bro,
as Cornette said, I was patient zero.
What is that? What do you mean by that? I
was the first guy to bring you in. So I was actually the very first one. Like, if someone got the coronavirus, the first person is patient zero.
Whatever.
What I'm saying, what I'm trying to make a point here is that, there's situations that develop. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only be who you are. Right. I mean, and I love Jimmy Cornette, and I don't want to get into Jimmy Cornette here. I mean, there's a lot of controversy this week and all this stuff. I don't want it, because I love Cornette. I'm one of his biggest fans. I've always respected the guy. I think he's a genius, and he's always treated me well. And I think he's one of the true legends of wrestling, and is one of the smartest people in the history of pro wrestling, regardless of how you think of him or anything. I don't even want to get into that.
John, I've said that for the record a million times. John, the two guys out of everybody I've met, including Vince McMahon, bro, the two guys I worked with whose brains are just wired like on another level, and I've said this a million times, Jim Cornette and Dutch Mantell. I think those two guys, the way their minds work and the coordination between their minds and their mouth, and how I've called Jim Cornette a genius. I have said that. And, I always said, John, I swear, you've dabbled a little bit in Hollywood and movies. If there were a reality television show of Jim Cornette and Dutch Mantell living together, bro, that show would draw millions and millions and millions of people a week. And I worked with both of them at different times. And like I said, including Vince McMahon, bro, These guys are just on another level.
Yeah, I spend probably 6 hours a week listening to Jimmy Cornette and Brian Last with their two shows, and I'm addicted to them. I mean, I have to listen to them because I just think they're brilliant. Cornette is brilliant, and I'm just a huge fan. But getting to Vince McMahon for a second, obviously, there's a history. When you got there, tell me about the Vince McMahon when you first got to meet him, know him, the development of your relationship. Obviously, he's a genius. I don't know how much you want to disclose or not. I always considered myself, or I thought he considered me, an enemy of the state. And back in the day, I was covering things that certainly put me in that category. I don't regret anything. The only thing I do regret, and I'll say it right here, when it comes back to those days and the scandals, is Pat Patterson. If he was alive today, I would have certainly, and I've said this to many people, I would go up to him and apologize for lumping him in with the other two guys that all this shit was going around back then. Because I think Pat wasn't treated fairly, especially when it came down to those really serious allegations of those youngsters. So I regret even alluding to it. And if Pat was here, and if I ever had that opportunity, but he's not here anymore, but I said it over the years that I would do that. But getting to Vince, I mean, obviously, the guy who has been the ringmaster of professional wrestling for decades. Tell me about your relationship with him. I mean, the beginning stages of it, and then obviously there was the split with you going to WCW. But if you had Vince McMahon in front of you today, what would you say to him?
Oh man, that's tough. John, I worked for Vince for less than 5 years. He took everything from me, man. Like I could not have worked another day. So many people say, Vince, you regret going to WCW? Absolutely not. I would do the same thing tomorrow. I don't regret leaving for a second. And John, the reason why I left is because my whole time there with him, John, here's the thing with me. I've never been motivated by money. That has never been, I've never lived in the big house and had that has never been a factor with me. Whatever I've done in my life, man, I've always wanted to just be the best that I could be. And when I worked for Vince McMahon, John, it's WWF at the time or bust. Like they get 100% of your time and attention, and he fully expects your family to not be as important as the WWE. And John, early on, I played that game. I had a very, very young family at the time, and I put my family on the back burner because of the hours that I was putting into that business and his business. And it's funny, John, because as we started getting more and more and more successful, John, I really started caring about Vince and his family. I really did. I cared about Vince and Linda. I had a good relationship with Shane. I genuinely cared about him. It was past the he's Vince McMahon. I genuinely, as one human being to another, I cared about this man. And John, I'll never forget, man, I was really at the point of he had just burnt me to the crisp. And now
during the launch of SmackDown and all of that, now you had exactly.
2 shows. Now he's launching SmackDown. Didn't even talk to us about it. Never even gave us a heads up about it. It was just basically, okay, you guys got this show to do now. So you got to understand, from my viewpoint, I'm like, bro, I'm working for you 80 hours a week. Like, where's the other time coming from to do this show? Because, John, what was always important to me was we put our blood, our sweat, and our tears into Raw. I didn't want to water down my work because now we have 2 shows. That's what would have happened. But I knew, how can I write at this level now for 2 shows? So I went in Vince's office, bro, and I was kind of on a verge of a breakdown. And bro, I'm telling you, I got no problem saying this. I cried in his office. And I just said to him, Vince, I never see my family. I wanted to move. I wanted my wife to take the kids and move back to her hometown in Indiana. Because I was in Connecticut. My wife had nobody. So I said, Vince, I want my wife to move to Connecticut with my family. And John, what I forgot to tell you is, as I started caring more and more about him, I started really becoming obsessed with, does he care about me? Does this man, as a human being, care about me, or am I just the cash cow? So as I went into his office and I broke down and I wanted to move my wife and my kids, and I said, Vince, I'll just see them on weekends, whatever it takes. I'll never forget, John. He turned around to me and he looked me in the eye and he goes, Vince, I don't know what the issue is. You make enough money. You should hire a nanny to watch your kids. John, when those words came out of his mouth, bro, it was game over. Because you just told me you don't give a crap about me. You don't give a crap about my family. You never did, despite everything I've given you. All you care about is your company, and that's fine. That's fine. But I don't want to work for a human being like that. And right as those words came out of his mouth, it was game over, man.
And that was it.
And that was it. I went from his office to my office and made my connection with J.J. Dillon at WCW, and I was in the WCW offices that weekend. And that was it. And I don't regret that for a second. It was a wake-up call to me. It was really a wake-up call when I realized I was neglecting my family. I don't think anybody should neglect their family for their job. I really don't. I think, yes, you got to work hard. You got to, bust your butt. You got to be the best you can be. But man, family is family. And John, when it comes to an Italian guy from New York, when he said that to me, and John, the funny thing is, I had a conversation with Shane McMahon about 3 years ago. And I said, Shane, do you know why I left the WWE? Do you know why I left? He goes, yeah, my father told me that WCW offered you more money. I said, no, Shane, that has nothing to do with it. And your dad knows that has nothing to do with it. And I told Shane the story. And you know what Shane turned around and said to me, John? He goes, Vince, that doesn't surprise me. He's like that with my kids. And bro, I'm sorry, man. You know how we are as Italians, John. It's family first and everything else second. And it was really a wake up call to me, man. It really was.
Yeah. I mean, family, as we all know, and I know how deeply connected and how blessed you are to have your family. And I see posts, family is first for you to this day.
Yep.
McMahon now obviously is getting up in years. He doesn't look good. I mean, I've seen him recently on TV, and you kind of worry a little bit that the guy is maybe he's maybe he's too long. Maybe you just don't want to give it up. Do you think that's what's going on? Is that he just doesn't know when to quit, and he is never going to let go of the reins? So perhaps the company might go in a different direction and get better?
John, I don't think he doesn't. I don't think it's a matter of he doesn't know when to quit. John, he's got nothing else. I mean, I'm telling you.
But he's got everything if you look at it. I mean,
he does, but he doesn't. My 5 years around him, John, it was 24/7. I mean, the guy, John, this is the best example I could tell you. This is the perfect example I could tell you. I'll never forget. It was Christmas one year, and we always used to go to his house and write TV. Okay. One of the groundskeepers, whatever you want to call him, at Titan Tower, constructed a huge a tree in Vince McMahon's living room. Put it up for Vince McMahon. So, John, what must have happened was the guy must have gotten sick or something, because what happened was the Christmas tree was up January 1st, February 1st. Bro, the Christmas tree never came down because Vince himself would not take the Christmas. That's what I'm talking about. I once asked Vince what a loaf of bread was and 12 eggs. He had no idea. This is 24/7 with him. So I can't imagine if he were to step down or walk away. I can't imagine what this man would do with himself. I really believe that's the issue.
So he's never going to give it up.
I don't think so. I don't think
you think he'll ever sell the company? Obviously, with NBC Universal now buying, licensing $1 billion for the network for 5 years. There's been speculation that maybe if there is a sale, that it would go to NBC Universal. Do you think that he will hold on to this till the day he dies, or is he maybe someday going to sell this company?
You know, John, I could tell you a great story, and you'll appreciate this. When I first started working for the WWE, I'll never forget going to a house show at Madison Square Garden. Okay, now, John, I was dressed nice, but I made the mistake. John, I hate shirt and ties. I was the one that literally changed the dress code at the WWE, because when I got the job there, bro, it was shirt and ties. I could not work that way. So I had to figure out a gimmick where I could wear like a straight collar and a vest, and I got away with never having to wear a tie. I can't work in an environment where I got to wear a tie. So Madison Square Garden, it was a house show, bro. It was like a Saturday night. I went to the house show. I was dressed very nice. I did not have a suit on. I'm not a suit guy. And I'll never forget, bro. This is what him and I just started there. I did not have a relationship with him. He took me to the side and cut this scathing promo on me and gave me a history lesson of what Madison Square Garden meant to him, because his dad is in the MSG Hall of Fame.
Vinny, the garden will always be the garden.
Yes. So with the question you asked, because of Vince's love for his dad, I don't think he would ever sell that company because of that.
It's a McMahon tradition. Do you think he would, and there's a question that came in too about if McMahon would drive, what is this? A fancy sports show. That's not the right one. If Vince was to step away, thank you, producer Dominic, would Shane and Stephanie take over, or Triple H, if he was to step away?
You know, John, it's funny because I don't think he's going to step away. But can you imagine the chaos if he doesn't step away? And, God forbid he passes, but he is going to pass one of these days. What's in his will?
That would be a pretty big revelation, wouldn't it?
I'm telling you.
Who's the favorite? Who's
John,
not?
That's what it's going to. John, wow. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to come down to the will, and then I think we're going to see everybody slapping everybody else with lawsuits. I'm telling you, that's what I think it's going to come down.
There's only a couple of kids.
Right.
So,
but,
they're two different dynamic personalities too.
And two totally different relationships, man.
Yeah. With Vince?
Which I never understood. I saw it. I never understood it. Never understood it.
So they both have different dynamics with the father.
You have Shane and Linda, who I could have worked the next 50 years for. Okay? They're the same exact personality. And then you have Vince and Stephanie on the other side, and they are people you just don't want to work for.
It's going to be interesting when that does happen, isn't it?
I'm telling you, that's really what it's going to come down to, and then we're going to see a fallout.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah.
Let me see what I got else here for you. I know producer Dominic had a couple of questions, but they were baseball related. But I do have some people sent an email, and this one I found interesting.
Where did he go, Dominic? Where did
he's there. Dominic? He's hanging there. There he is.
There I am. I thought you left, bro, for a minute.
No, he's
No, I would
producer
never
Dominic. He's monitoring the comments, any
Oh,
questions.
nice. Okay, he's producing. He's producing the
producer
show.
Dominic.
Dominic.
There you
That's
go.
awesome. That's
Exactly.
awesome. Bro. That is great.
We'll bring him back in a sec. But here's a question. I mean, it was just kind of the ones I got. This was kind of crazy. It was like, hey, John, I was wondering if Vince had fun putting together the Scoop Sullivan comics he usually found on the last page of WWF magazine in the mid-90s. I looked forward to those when I was a kid every month.
John, you know what it was? I wrote that magazine from beginning to end. I wrote everything in that magazine. And what happened was I couldn't have everything in there by Vince Russo, by Vince Russo. I literally had to create characters so people would know Vince Russo. That's where I created The Informer and Scoop Sullivan and Vic Venom.
Vic Venom, yeah.
Because I was writing everything and I didn't want my byline to be on every single story.
Yeah, you had a lot of yeah. Well, I did that too when I wrote for the magazines back in the day.
Yeah,
I changed my name. You know, George Napolitano did that all the time.
Yeah,
you know, because you didn't want your name plastered. Like if I had 3 articles in an issue of Ring Wrestling magazine, I'd use John Arezzi, then I'd use John Anthony, or I'd use the name of my old girlfriend from college. I mean, you know, you did that pseudonyms.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. We have any questions coming in? Is there any or whether you were excited about, but Vince turned it down? A good question there. Was there any angle that you ever wrote that you were excited about, but Vince said,
John,
"No, pal, it ain't happening."
John, let me tell you something about Vince's genius. And see this again. It's like, you know, the journalists love to paint the picture. Oh, Vince Russo was only successful at WWE because Vince was his filter. John, let me tell you what the genius of Vince McMahon is, because I have no problem telling it. John, you're seeing this today. You cannot give Vince a blank sheet of paper and say, Vince, go write a television show. You can't, he can't do it. And that's okay that he can't do it. We all can't do everything. Mm-hmm. Vince just made $1 billion deal. He could do that. He can't write a television show from scratch. He can't do it, and that's fine. So what used to happen is me and Ed used to write the entire show, John, commercial break, everything. We gave him a complete show. And it would get to the point, John, where we would go over that thing with a fine-tooth comb, know what hole he was going to pick at it, and be ready to combat that. Like we knew Vince like the back of our hand. So, bro, we'd go in with that complete show. The show is done. This is the genius of Vince McMahon. Ed Ferrara and myself agonized over that show. But here's the difference, John. When Vince had that complete show in his hand, he was able to go through the show, not worry about big picture or changing this or changing that, because he never did. He always went through the show, and the word he used to use was the nuances. John, if me and Ed wrote the best show we possibly could, Vince would take these little things throughout the show, and if we wrote an 8, he would make them a 10. And me and Ed used to just sit there like, why didn't we see? He had to, but John, you had to lay everything out in front of him. And then once he had that, he can turn this into gold. That's what stopped happening when Russo and Ferrara left. And I think that's why you're getting a product like you get one today. He needs that full script in front of him so he could just punch it up and make everything better.
Yeah, but all these years have now passed. So, you know, is he even capable of doing that even if he had good writers there? Other comments coming in here. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, Vince. I know we've gone over already.
Anything, John. I mean, even if it's like I'm, you could ask me anything. I'm not. I'm very transparent, man. I don't have anything to hide. I swear, I don't have any
regrets at all over the last years.
John. Like I said, when when Vince hit me with that nanny comment, I was ashamed. As a man, as a father, as a husband, I was ashamed for putting my family on the back burner. I really was. And John, like I said, the thing is, my only saving grace is it had nothing to do with money. It's not that I put my family on the back burner because I was making all this money. It wasn't that. That's just how I am. I'm very goal orientated. I'm that same way today with the podcast. That's my regret. My regret is that I put my and Vince literally slapped me across the face with that comment. And thank God from that day going forward, it was family first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, that's one thing that you've always put foremost since you've left the WWF and doing what you do now. Your family is first. Your son Will, your wife, your father is still here.
Yep.
I mean, that's a blessing.
Yep.
So you're really blessed to have that. Now, as you look towards the sunset, I mean, what's next for you? What do you want to continue doing as we wrap this up today? And I want to bring producer Dominic on because I know he had a question for you as well. What do you see in the next 5 years for yourself?
You know, John, I've been doing the podcasting now. It's russosbrand.com. John, I've been doing it for 7 years. I love it.
How many shows do you have now?
Oh, my gosh. I oversee probably over 20. And I love it. And John, I love it because it's everything that I hated about the wrestling business. It's the complete opposite. And the main thing is, John, you know what it's like, working for yourself. Nobody can keep you down. As hard as you work, that's what you're going to get out of it. No politics, no worrying about what you said or somebody burying you behind your back. Or it's so freeing at 60 years old to just be able to be me. And that's it, man. As long as I can be me and as long as I can be honest, I'm going to be happy.
I mean, you're kind of in charge of your own enterprise now with all the different people that you're responsible for putting on the air and distributing their content and their shows. So, maybe after all these years, as far as deep down in your heart, you found your niche.
I think I did because, like I said, John, to this day, I still would love to be in radio.
Well, you are. This is radio today.
That's what I'm saying.
In radio. I mean, this is what it is today.
Yeah.
I mean, terrestrial radio is dead.
Yes.
I mean, it's satellite, it's streaming, it's Spotify. I mean, that's what, even me being in the music business, I mean, but as a broadcaster, I mean, this is what it's at today. This is it. You could dictate and control what you're going to say, what topic you're going to say, what format you're going to use, and whether or not it takes off, it takes off. I mean, for me, doing what I do with Brian Last on the Arcadian Vanguard Network with Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now, I saved every one of my radio shows. I mean, every one in the boxes, and they're all in chronological order. And then we discussed having this. I was like, I love broadcasting. And that's the one thing I kind of regret in my life because I always felt that I could have been a good announcer, whether it was in baseball or, in wrestling. I never got the opportunity. I was always looking too far ahead. And I pissed a lot of people off, especially in wrestling, that I would never have the opportunity because I was too honest with the way I reported on it. But today, because I am in control of my own destiny and I'm doing this show, which is kind of like, you don't have a massive audience for this, but I dig talking to the people that knew me back then and some of the new ones. But on the podcast, I mean, that is my joy right now because I have thousands of people that listen every week, and it's episodic radio like it was back in the day. People don't want to miss an episode.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
It's kind of funny, and it jars my memory because I can't remember half the shit I did 30 years ago.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you're in the same boat. I mean, how much life have you lived, and how many experiences? I mean, you don't remember everything. Yeah. But this is like the forum. And every week I sit with Brian, and we tape the podcast right before we came on the air here with this show, and I'm like, this is great. I love this.
I do. That's why so many people, because Sean, I'm very honest about, and you'll appreciate this. I'm very honest about today's product. Listen, man, if it's good, I'll say it's good. If it stinks, I'm going to say it stinks. But, when I'm very hard on the product, what do I get all the time? Oh, you're bitter because you're not working there and they won't hire you. And I'm like, are you nuts with what I'm doing now compared to working under like they have no freaking idea. Like, I swear, I look at Bruce Pritchard. John, I don't know how he does it. I really believe Bruce is going to die on that job, because at my age, if I was working forget about, there's no way possible, man. Yeah. I couldn't do it.
I got no patience for any type of drama, no matter what it is. If there's drama, if someone has drama that comes to me with drama, I shut them out.
Yep.
I don't even. I can't.
Yep.
I don't have all those years left to even worry about it anymore. And I'm just, I've always been a guy who's like mellow. I when I left wrestling, I was so happy to get out of it, because I was so freaking burnt out and so disillusioned, and I didn't like who I was. And I prayed to God. I mean, the day I got a job at a country radio station, just to kind of forgive me for being in the wrestling business and doing all the shit I had to do and to survive, and it was just bullshit. But now, I mean, coming back 30 years later, I can go back in my mind, and I could go back 30 years ago and listen to what I did back then, and then even just be totally transparent as like, I did that wrong, or I said that wrong. I should, like today, I was like, I'm a shill for Herb Abrams, because he was on my show in late 1990, and almost every week, and he was paying me to help him set up New York, and I'm like, I'm a shill for this guy, and I'm not really happy with what I'm hearing now. But this is what I did back then to survive. But today, I love the history of the business. I love being a historian. I love the archives that I have. I can't wait for my book to come out. You've had 2 books. I mean,
I think, John, it's so important what you're doing. I swear to God, bro, because, I'm on social media a lot promoting. And man, every time I'm on there and you post one of those pictures, it literally does make my day, because sometimes, man, when you watch today's product, sometimes you really forget, what was it that we were so in love with? And then, like I said, man, one of your black and white pictures will pop up, and I'm like, it literally brings me back every time, man.
I think I was blessed, because even when I got in and I started a fan club for Blassie back in '72, and I was able to do that, and I was always kind of an odd child. I was always I always kept to myself. I had no friends really to speak of in school. I mean, I was very self-conscious of myself. But the Blassie fan club and the newsletter that I was able to write when I was 14 and start that off and send it out, I mean, it gave me a little bit more confidence. And I always had a big set of balls, I think. I was never afraid to do something, like to get a press pass. I mean, I thought Willie Gilzenberg was the real president of the WWF, and I followed him into an elevator at the Holland Hotel on 42nd Street, and I was like, I'm a writer, I do this, and I pushed it was an elevator speech, because I actually pushed the floor on the 18th floor, and the offices for Capital Wrestling was on floor number 2. So in that transition, and he's like, maybe miss my floor, kid. And I showed him my press card from Ring. And then he says, follow me. And when he gets out on the 2nd floor, and there's Arnie Skolin, Gorilla Monsoon, they're in the office. Arnie, give this kid a press pass. And that's how I got my press credentials for the Garden. But I was blessed, because that was Bruno and Graham and the Valiant Brothers. And I was able to, send pictures and write for the magazines, and started a college show, Pro Wrestling Spotlight. And then I wrestled. I got into the ring. I bullshitted my way in and got my ass kicked. And I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. and Dusty Rhodes sat on my head to pin me. And it was just like, and Vince McMahon is like to George Napolitano, I didn't know Arezzi was a worker. And George's like, I didn't know either. I didn't tell anybody. So, I mean, but I was blessed to do that stuff. And then being able to do Pro Wrestling Spotlight, promote the conventions, help bring Lucha to the United States, all these things that I did it's kind of my life story, even with helping country artists. And that's why I can't wait for the book to come out April 6th, because people can read this freaking crazy story.
Yeah.
But I mean, at this point in my life, like I'm sure with you, I want no drama. I just want to do what I do.
Yep.
And I want, if people like me, they like me. If they freaking hate me, they hate me. I don't care.
Yep.
I mean, I really don't. I mean, but but I don't tolerate idiots who are going to say stupid things about me.
Yeah.
I don't care, but it's like, all right, just dismiss them, and that's that.
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I hope that we can actually do this again sometime and talk again. Man. But I want to bring producer Dominic back in for some closing comments here. And I know
Dominic
had a very important question about baseball that he wants to ask you.
Pitches, catches, right around the corner.
I just wanted to say, great show.
Thank you, Dom.
I would definitely want to hear you guys do it again.
Yes.
Vince, what do you think about the Giants this year?
I mean, they're rebuilding, and I'm cool with that. So, I mean, listen, I hope they keep last year's playoff format, because that's the only way the Giants would stand a chance. I mean, if they do away with the Padres and the Dodgers in their division, forget about it. I hope they keep the playoff format. They're rebuilding. I mean, I think they're a 500 team, but like I said, if they bring back that format, I think we got an outside chance of making the playoffs.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's going to be, I hope, we can all see baseball again. I mean, Dominic and I, every year we've gone to spring training for how many years? 12, 14 years in a row until 2020. And now, talking to the Mets down in Florida, they said, if we let fans in, we'll only let maybe 20% in, and you'll sit in pods of 2 people here, 4 people there. So this year's screwed when it comes to crowds for baseball. But if they can vaccinate these guys, and I like to do a podcast. I mean, I love talking baseball all day long. But if we can get the season started and these guys can get vaccinated, I mean, and then eventually as things start to herd immunity is what they call it, I guess, and then maybe we can start getting back to normal. But it ain't going to be 2021. I think 2022 is when it's going to be full on back in the stadiums. And
what did you guys? I know what you guys thought about Lindor, and I mean, I thought of you guys immediately. I'm like, oh, those guys. But what you guys think about? What do you think about the Mats deal? What do you think about that?
He had to go.
Yeah, I didn't like him.
Tell me why. Give me more as a Mets fan.
Very temperamental. He's a local guy. He's a Long Island guy. He was great when he first came up. Very temperamental on the mound. Very consistent. Maybe a change of scenery will do good for him in Toronto, but
he's not a bad guy from everything I've heard, and I've talked to Steven a couple of times because his now wife, and when I met, I never forget, Cincinnati 2015, then the day the Mets clinched the division, and I had free tickets from my buddy J.P. Ricciardi, and in front of me were these brothers and sisters from Nashville, and they had a singing group called the Canes. They were a country act. And she was dating Steven Matz. So, and then I got on the phone with Matz because JP says, "Can you help his girlfriend?" And he was a super nice guy. And the band is called the Canes. But he's a Long Island guy, like Dominic said. Yeah. You love a Long Island. You want a Long Island guy to win and succeed. But he was all over the place, and he wasn't consistent. And he had the injuries, and I think for Steven's sake, that moving to Toronto, getting traded to Toronto is going to be the best thing for him, and now he'll either make it or break it.
Yeah.
But you're loyal, and I was sad yesterday to hear about Murphy's retirement.
Yeah,
I mean,
me
I love
too.
Danny Murphy.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Hard-nosed player, very gritty.
Yeah, remember Dominic? We the very first, I think it was the first weekend he got called up.
Yeah,
we were in Atlanta because I used to take him to the Mets when the Mets played the Braves down in Atlanta, and we'd stay at the hotel where the Mets stayed. And what hotel was that? Do you remember? Was it
the Western Buckhead, right?
Yeah, the Western Buckhead. And he'd be getting autographs. We'd be riding an elevator. Remember Willie Randolph wouldn't give you the autograph? He was like, I was like, Willie, give the kid the autograph in the elevator. Filled
that was funny, yeah.
Yeah, and then we chased Mike Piazza down the block so you could get his autograph. I mean, we've had adventures, but Murphy had just been called up.
Yeah.
And he was there with his parents, I think. And
Wow.
and then we went into the elevator, and there he was, and he took a picture with Dominic.
Really nice guy. Really nice
that was
guy.
his first weekend in the bigs, I think.
John, you know what will blow you away? You'll never guess this in a million years. But I swear to God, I remember watching baseball. My introduction to baseball was the '69 Mets. I remember when the Mets clinched. I remember the World Series. That's when I really started watching baseball. I was 8 years old. You'll never guess this in a million years, John, and I can't even tell you why. You know who my favorite Met was in 1969?
Please say Eddie Kranepool.
No.
Who?
Actually, bro, I do have a little history with Eddie Kranepool because the only baseball I got at a game was during batting practice. There was a huge thud on the seat behind me. It was a baseball, and Kranepool had hit it.
Nice.
That's the only baseball I ever got in my life.
Very
All
nice.
right, John, I know you know this.
All right.
Who was the backup catcher for the '69 Mets?
Duffy Dyer.
No.
Wait, 69 Mets was
Yes.
J.C. Martin.
My favorite Met in 1969 was J.C. Martin. Remember
Really?
the bunt? Remember the famous bunt?
I
Yeah.
was there. My father took me to the game.
Yes.
I woke up one day. It was like the World Series, and I stayed home from school.
Wow.
My aunt said, "You're staying home from school. Your father wants to talk to you." I was like, "Oh shit, what did I do?"
Oh, wow.
And my dad worked overnights at the time at the trucking company, and he goes, go into my pants there, and there's something in the pocket. And it was fucking World Series tickets.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
That was Seaver's game, Swoboda's catch.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I became addicted July 3rd, 1966, when my Uncle Sonny took me to my very first game. Mets and Pirates, doubleheader. Eddie Kranepool got 3 hits, and he was my favorite Met till the day he retired. And then I always said, I wonder if my Uncle Sonny took me to a Yankee game, would have had all these many, many decades of heartbreak and misery. And then I gave him, my poor nephew, his dad. Well, your dad is a diehard Yankee fan, but I used to throw Met dolls in his crib, like Mr. Met dolls. He was in his crib, and I'd be like, Meta, and that was it. He became a
That
Met.
was it.
John, you want to know, I swear to God, this was the greatest. This was my greatest memory in wrestling. I kid you not. John, it was WCW. It was, God, I think it was 2000. Yeah, I think it was 2000. I was at the end of my rope there. They were trying to sell the company. I was suffering from a concussion. I literally could not stand it anymore. Okay. So we had a TV at San Francisco to Cow Palace. And then the next day, everybody was leaving for Australia. And I was supposed to be going with them to Australia. Well, John, after our show at the Cow Palace, guess what the next day was? Giants-Mets playoffs.
Oh, no kidding.
Wow.
And I'm in San Francisco, bro. And I was so fed up with WCW. So I grabbed Jeremy Borash.
Oh, wow.
And I said, Jeremy, I ain't going to Australia. I'm done. I'm going to bro, that was when JT Snow hit the 3-run homer off Benitez.
Oh, yeah, Benitez.
Wow.
But they came back and won it. The Mets won it.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
John, here was my greatest memory. I swear to God. And this was the greatest thing to me. So, John, we get to the game. It's the playoff game, the Mets and the Giants, and I'm on the Mets side of the field. So all of a sudden, bro, I see, what was the guy's name? Benny Agavaya?
Benny Agbayani.
Agbayani,
Okay.
yes.
Him and the backup catcher was Pratt, right?
Yeah, Todd Pratt.
So, bro, I see Benny Bagayaga and Pratt, and they're outside the dugout, and they're talking. And they're like pointing my way. Now, bro, I'm the biggest baseball mark on the face of. So these guys, bro, they're pointing to me, and I'm looking around. I'm looking like behind me, and then Beg Baella finally goes, "No, you." And bro, he threw me a bit. Bro, they knew who I was from freaking wrestling.
Yeah.
Bro, I swear to God, that was the highlight of
Big
my
moment.
wrestling career because of my love for baseball, man.
Hey, baseball makes us all kids, no matter how old we are.
Yes.
I'm a
It
kid
really
when I
does.
go. I'm a kid when I go with him. I mean, it's the thing we live for.
Yeah.
Because we already have our trip booked for March if they even let us in. I mean, we stay at the same hotel in spring training. We go there for a week. We have our ritual. That's what we live for every freaking year.
Yep.
An opening day. I mean, this is our tradition, and it's got to come back. I mean, we got to get it back. We have to. So, we're not getting any younger. Dominic's
when
got
they
many
got
years
last
left.
year,
Dominic's 23, and we're fucking in our 60s now.
I swear, when they halted spring training last year, man, I was devastated. Like
I was driving to New York to pick him up on March 12th. We were ready to go. We were getting on a plane the next day, and all of a sudden it's like pandemic and everything shut down. And my sister's like, "It's canceled." I was like, "I'm still going. I'm still going. I'm picking Dominic up. If we have to drive to Florida, I'm going." And then they canceled the whole thing. And it was
seriously, though, both you guys, was life not the same without freaking baseball, bro, in April? It was not the same.
No, it was terrible.
Depressing.
No, bro, it was horrible, man. Horrible.
You can't watch like old clips. I mean,
oh man, that was brutal.
Brutal. This is good. This is Brian Phillip. There was a hot dog guy at Citi Field. I hope he's still alive. I hope you see him again. I mean, this is a guy that I used to like get pissed off at because he had the loudest voice, and he always would come near me and he would just yell, "Hot dog!" I'd be like, and I have him on YouTube now. I taped him a couple of times, but remember Dominic? I mean, it was like, how the heck did he get away with it? And he would just like yell in my ear, and I'd be busting my eardrums. But yes. I can't wait to see him again. I will give him a big hug, his sweaty, smelly body. And I'll say, "Give me 2 with mustard, damn it."
There you go.
Yes.
So I hope we're going back.
You guys confident that the NL's going to adopt the DH?
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
The Mets
What do you think, Tom? You think they will? I think they need it. They got to do it now.
I can't believe, though, that they haven't made an announcement yet because this would matter whether or not some teams pick up these free agents. I can't. I don't know what they're waiting for.
It's probably all about money. It's the collective bargaining agreement is over at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be leverage. Are we going to get paid in case we don't? I mean, there's going to be negotiations back and forth, but you got to do it now. I mean,
you got to do it now.
You got to just because that's holding up even the Mets. Can the Mets put Dominic Smith at first base and make Alonso the DH? I mean, there's a lot of decisions that at least selfishly as a Mets fan, I'm hoping that they make this decision soon. I want the DH. I think it worked last year.
I do too. I agree with you, definitely.
But anyway, I mean, this is good baseball talk. We'll do this again. I mean, maybe we'll do wrestling talk. We'll do baseball talk or something.
Yes.
I like baseball talk better, to be honest.
Of course you do. I mean, I love baseball. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, I love wrestling. I mean, the passion of the history in the past.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, in my book, and I'll do a spoiler alert here, a little bit of one. I did want to call it "I Should Have Stayed in Baseball" instead of Matt Memories, my wild ride in country music, wrestling, and with the Mets, and because I love baseball, and the very last line of my book is like, even though I only had a cup of coffee in baseball, it was the best tasting coffee of everything.
Oh yeah, man,
it really was.
Yeah.
I would
do anything to have that cup of coffee. Yeah, I would do anything to just have that cup of coffee, man. You were blessed.
Yeah. I was getting $500 a month.
Yeah.
Working for this crazy guy who owned the Shelby Mets baseball team, and John Gibbons was my roommate, and J.P. Ricciardi was my roommate, and Lenny Dykstra was on the team, and it was a nut house. And but I mean, I loved it. I was like, that was my dream to get a job with the Mets all my life. That's what I wanted to do, and I got it. And then I go into a nightclub one night, and there's a girl singer, Patty Loveless, who was in a rock and roll band, called Straight Up, and I'm like, what is she doing here? She's so good. And that was it. It was just like, bingo.
Yeah.
I leave the job and go into artist management. And, but that's part of the story. You don't know what path he's going to have you. But, I helped her, and she became one of the biggest country music stars in the history of country music. And so anyway, I think when we talk about my book, I think what I equate myself to, and is like, I think I was a minor league manager. Is like, I saw these diamonds in the rough, right? Patty Loveless, Kelsey Ballerini, yourself. I mean, in a way, I kind of opened doors for you in a roundabout way. So, and I'm like the guy that I stay in the minor leagues, and I see all these people doing great things after they pass through my life. But I think that's what God put me here to do.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it, because I've lived a incredibly full life. And I've traveled around the world. I've been in great industries. I've never wanted for anything.
Yeah.
Not a millionaire or anything like that. Social Security's coming pretty soon. But I was able to give this kid adventures. We call him adventures. He calls me Uncle Genie. He doesn't even call me Uncle Johnny. I'm Genie, because I grant wishes. But I mean, it's been a good, fulfilled life.
That's awesome.
And that's the thing I just have to tell you yourself. I mean, you've been controversial. You've had wars and stuff with people, but at the end of the day, it's your family that's first, right? And it's look ahead to your future. And now that you're entering your 60s, which is a big thing. I mean, just kind of, I live by the philosophy of do the right thing by people, and that's all you could hope for, and hope that it's reciprocated in any way. And if it's not, then it's not.
Yep.
Move on.
Yep.
So that's it. I'm on my pulpit, and sorry.
Well, we gotta definitely do this again, man. I really, really enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
It was fun. And Dominic, I miss you. I mean, I haven't seen you now in almost a month, and
wow.
And I know it's like, this is crazy for me, because that place where he is right now is my apartment in New York. I rent the basement apartment in the house that they rent, and we call it the clubhouse. And it's a little tiny place for me when I'm up in New York, but I'm comfortable there.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen my only granddaughter in a year.
Oh my God, that's
killing me, man. Absolutely killing me. What's that?
It's heartbreaking. I mean,
killing me, man. Yeah.
Let's hope it's all over and this stuff moves on, and they get people vaccinated so we could all start living life again.
Yes.
Let's hope so. And Vince, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to say goodbye to you now, and I thank you very much for doing this. And I didn't know what it was going to turn into. I didn't know. I mean, because you and I really have only spoken on the Coon thing and with Truth or Consequences and Truth With, and then we had some back and forth. And we've been pleasant to each other for the last couple of years. And so this kind of solidifies that even more.
So do you send me the video now?
You want the video what?
The painting?
What do you mean? That painting is his.
No, the video. Do I see the video now? Do you show me the video now?
Oh, I will share the video.
Did I earn the video?
I will share the video with you. I will send it to you. And
hold on, Joe. I got sound effects. I got to give you applause for the video. Hold on.
Okay.
There we go.
Yes.
All right, but I got to forewarn you. I mean, and not from myself. My sister was like, "Oh my God, what the F is this?" And she's Marissa Tomei from My Cousin Vinny. That's her personality. She
Dominic,
didn't know what the F it was.
My biggest concern was, and I hope you know this.
Let's hear it.
God, right hand to God. Dominic, I did the best I could do.
Man, I loved it. I love it.
John, Dominic, this was not a mock. This was the best thing I could do. I want you to know that, Dominic.
Well, you know Picasso.
Vince, I love it. I did. I think it's great.
I've seen Bruce Mitchell. I've seen the Meltzers. I've seen the
bro. I had a brand member that wanted me to paint a picture of his daughter. There it is. Very nice.
There it is. We knew what we were getting.
Bro, I had a granddaughter that wanted me to paint a picture of his daughter when she was like a year old or something. Oh, no. Bro, I swear to God, by the time I was done with this thing, she looked like an alien. I don't know what. And he's got it up on the wall in his house. I'm like, bro, you can't put that up, man. I try though, man. I try.
No, we have it hanging up. It's in the basement.
That's
we love it.
That's awesome.
When visitors come downstairs, they don't know what the F it is.
Well, I did try my best, Dominic.
No, but I mean, it's for us. I mean, it's kind of like this thing. I mean, that I can't even believe I even asked, and you did it, and it was great. And I always try to give Dominic something a little special every Christmas, and this was a good one.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thanks for letting me do it.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, Vince, it was good to talk to you. Dominic, hang for 1 second, and I'll send you that file. I mean, probably it may go through email. If not, I'll find a way to do it on a Dropbox or whatever. We'll figure it out. I'll get it.
Let's definitely touch base during the season, man.
I'll definitely do that. Now, I may put it on. I may do a private link on YouTube with it. I'll upload it there, and then you could just click on a private link.
And then when the book comes out, you got to come on my show so we can promote it.
Okay, great. 2 more months, man. All right, thank you, Vince. Have a good weekend.
You guys. Thank you. God bless.
All right, man. Take care. All right, there you go. That was interesting, wasn't it?
It was a good hour. I liked it.
Yeah, and it wasn't too heavy.
No, not at all. I think it was great.
And I mean, there are paths that you could travel a little bit, and even the comments. I mean, it was kind of lighthearted. I wanted to get some information done. I wanted to see what the real guy was like in a way, and I think I accomplished that in a lot of ways. And we had a good discussion. So I hope everybody out there enjoyed it.
Yeah, the fans seem to love it.
You're my barometer, Dominic. So if you say it's good, it's good. And if baseball is fake, no, oh my goodness, can you imagine? So all the comments, thank you so much for everybody, and I appreciate you joining me again. I wasn't here last week, and next week hopefully I'll be back. I will be back. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around. We'll figure out a show for next weekend. Dominic, I don't know if you'll be here or not. You always have things going on in your life.
I might not be because I have something to do for work, but I could be back the following week.
Well, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
You know, more time with you today than I have in the last month.
Yes.
So I guess our paths will cross again, hopefully in March.
Yeah, for spring training.
Exactly. Let's hope. All right, kid. It's good to talk to you. I'll say goodbye to the folks out there, and that'll be that. Dominic, I'll talk to you soon. I love you, man.
I love you.
Okay, take care. My nephew Dominic and Vince Russo joining me today on Pro Wrestling Spotlight live here on January the 30th. It was a good show. Thanks to Vince Russo. Things to plug. Not too many things. I'm going to start auctions up again soon in the next week or so, and so we could start giving you fans some of the old archives as well. And I have a great new hat here. These are not even available on the merchandise site, which is tinyurl.com/PWS store. There are some new hoodies up there now and masks and stuff, but this is a mistake printing, and I have 12 of these. And next week I'm going to find a way for some people to win some. I'll put some up on the marketplace site, and that's really about it. I had a good time. I've been talking now for about 3-4 hours between the show and Brian's podcast taping. So I will say goodbye to you now. And Dominic, I see you in the waiting room. Take care of yourself. Love you. And thank you, everybody, for joining me. And I hope we did a good job tonight. Until next week when we talk more wrestling with you, this is John Arezzi. We'll see you.